Next thing in pastoral counselling is know your limitations. Know where your expertise is and where your expertise isn't. And this is an issue that is big in a lot of churches. Some pastors think that they know a lot of, that they can tell people not to take the medication if people are mentally ill or people are depressed. But you're not a professional doctor as a pastor or a counsellor, and so that's not for you to say. You've got to know your limitations. You're there to counsel people and help people as a pastor and as a counsellor, but you're not there as a psychiatrist, and you're not there as the doctor. You're there as a pastor or as a counsellor. And sometimes many pastors can fall into the trap of trying to be a doctor. Oh, well, you're taking antidepressants, don't take them, they'll do you no good. Well, hang on a minute, you're not a doctor, so you shouldn't be saying that. Your role is the spiritual side of your flock, and so therefore, as a counsellor, the spiritual and psychological side, and the same with the pastor. So very often there's a movement in the Reformed Church against psychiatry and stuff like that. Some of what they say is right, some of it is not, but that's for other psychiatrists to take on the psychiatrists that are unbalanced. It's not for the pastors to do that. Our job, or people's job, is to counsel the people that God has given us. It's not to fight the psychiatric world, it's not to fight the hospitals or whatever. We have to maintain the area of expertise that God has given us. Now, that doesn't put us at a disadvantage. If we know someone in our flock who has depression, and we know them very well, then that is an expertise that we have. Maybe the doctor doesn't know the person in your flock as good as you do. Maybe the psychiatrist doesn't know the person in your flock as good as you do. So you have an expertise in there that you can challenge the doctor on, you can challenge the psychiatrist on, if needed be, because you actually know the person in your congregation better. And maybe there might be a very rare occasion where something is happening to one of your flock where the psychiatrist has got it wrong, or the doctor has got it wrong, and you can step in and say, wait a minute, I know this person really well. That's one of the unique special roles a pastor has, or a Christian counsellor. But generally speaking, when it comes to technical issues in medical health, whether mental health or medical, it's not for you as a pastor or a counsellor to tell the person who you're counselling not to take medication or not to do this medication or whatever. I have experienced this myself. I was on medication, and I had Reformed Calvinists telling me don't take medication, and that is just really bad counselling. People do have mental illness, people do have depression, and sometimes they need the doctor, sometimes they need help. So be very wary of overstepping the mark. Remember your limitations, and that goes, for example, if you're counselling an ex-drug addict, or if you're counselling a ex-alcoholic and you've got no experience in that area, then tread very carefully, because if you've not got any expertise in that area, you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's why knowing your limitations means having backup. It means having people on your leadership team and relying on their resources that they have. Maybe there's an elder in your church who was an ex-drug addict. Maybe there is someone in your church who was an alcoholic. Call on their experience in the counseling. Maybe there is a drug rehab in the area that or a Christian one that you can get in contact and tap into their resources. Maybe there's an alcohol alcohol rehabilitation center in the area, or whatever. Maybe you're dealing with someone with mental illness, and maybe it'd be good to go to a group and sit in where they struggle with these issues, like Mind or some charity like that, and get to know the mental health nurses there, and draw on their experience, and then you have contacts. So if you meet someone who's mentally ill, that you can get in contact with the nurse and say, I've got someone here, can you give me a bit of advice or whatever. So know your limitations, know where your expertise is, and know where your limitations are. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't try to be everything to everybody. You're not an expert in everything. Okay? Sometimes we think that we have to be an expert in everything. We just got to recognize our own limitations, and the limitations in what we can do. We can't meet everybody's need. We can't do everything for everybody. We can only do what we can do with the resources that we have. Very often as a pastor, what you're tempted to do is be God. You're tempted to, that everybody looks to you to answer all your problems. Everybody thinks that you can solve every issues. Everybody thinks that you can just come in and it's all going to be okay. But you as a pastor or as a counselor are just human being with certain skills and gifts, and you're there to help them, but you can't do everything. You can't solve every issue. And that means swallowing your pride and saying, well, if a drug addict comes, I'm not an expert in this area. I'll encourage them where I can, but I need to refer them to other places where they can get help. Someone's got sexual issues, they've been abused as a child, you can help them a little bit, but maybe they need to go and talk to someone who's got more expertise in that area. The danger is as a pastor, you think that you're the one that has to solve it all, but there are people in your church who've got experiences that you can call upon, and there are people around you, professionals, who you can call upon. They might not even be Christian, but they can still help because they have some knowledge in that area where they can help, and also they can provide resources and support where you can't. So just remember your limitations. If you try to solve every problem and try to do it all yourself, then you'll end up you'll end up making a mess of people's lives, because you'll end up saying things that you're not qualified to say. You'll end up doing things where you're not resourced to be able to do those things, and you'll find yourself in difficulties. And your limitations, remember, what you can take and what you can't take. If you've had a counselling session with someone, you've helped someone during the day, you've had one counselling session, that might drain you. And so having 3 counselling sessions during the day, or 4, might just completely sap you of your energy. So you've got to pace yourself. You've got to look after yourself. Your limitations in your time for your family. You need to make sure that you spend time with your wife or your husband. You need to make sure you spend time with your kids. Need to make sure that you spend time doing good things, healthy things, and not just listening to people's problems all the time. Know your limitations. You can't work and help all the time.